Level 1. Negative $11. You check your balance in the Target parking lot, which is already a red flag because nobody checks their balance somewhere fun. Negative $11. A Chipotle order that hit 2 days late, like the burrito was mailed instead of eaten. The app doesn't say oops, the app doesn't say anything. It just shows you the number and lets you sit with it, the same way a landlord lets you sit with a leaky ceiling. Then the fee posts, $34. For being $11 short, the bank charges you 3 times the crime. That's not a penalty, that's a markup. If a store did that, it'd be a scandal. When a bank does it, it's called a service. You call the number on the back of the card, the hold music is a jazz saxophone that has clearly given up on life, same as you. A voice picks up eventually, thanks you for your patience you did not volunteer, and reads you a sentence that was written by a lawyer specifically so it can't be argued with. Unfortunately, that fee is non-refundable at this time. At this time, as if there's a magical future Tuesday where the bank wakes up feeling generous. You don't get the fee back, you get an apology shaped like a fee staying exactly where it is. By Thursday, AutoPay tries to pull your phone bill and bounces off the same negative number like a golf ball off a wall. Another $25. You didn't spend anything new, the bank just kept billing you for the crime of already owing them money, which is a genuinely impressive business model if you're not the one paying it. You skip going out with coworkers that Friday, not because you're broke, you'd never say broke, you're just not really feeling it, which is the official corporate translation for, I have $4 and I need 3 of them to survive until Monday. Nobody at that dinner will ever know. That's the whole design of being poor politely in America. Performing fine so convincingly that even you start to believe it between paychecks. You walk into the branch to sort it out in person because surely a human will be different than an app. The teller looks at her screen and something in her face resets. Not mean, not rude, just administrative. Like she's not looking at a person anymore, she's looking at a status. You leave without saying what you came to say because somewhere between the $11 and the unreturned call and the skipped dinner, you stopped being a customer and became a line item marked monitor. Level 2. $180 in the account. You climbed back up. Nobody threw you a parade for it, which feels insulting in retrospect, because getting from negative to $180 took actual discipline. Skipped Ubers, a lunch made of whatever was left in the fridge, saying I'm good to a Starbucks run 4 times in 1 week, like a war hero declining a medal. The bank's reward for this heroic act of adulting? A monthly maintenance fee, $12. Automatically withdrawn because you don't have the $1,500 minimum balance required to make the fee disappear. So you are now paying the bank a subscription fee to hold your own money, the same way you pay for a streaming service you forgot to cancel, except this one you can't cancel because you kind of need a bank account to function in society. You apply for a credit card to build some breathing room. They offer you a secured card, which is a very polite way of saying, give us $300 of your own cash and we'll generously lend it back to you at 24% interest. Read that again. They want collateral from you to extend you credit made from your own money. It's like asking a friend to hold your wallet so they can charge you to borrow from it. You decline. 2 weeks later, your car makes a noise it has never made before, the kind of noise that costs exactly the amount of money you don't have. No card, no cushion, no options, just a very long, very public bus ride to work, while your coworkers wonder why you suddenly love public transit. You go back to the branch to ask about that maintenance fee. The teller is mid-laugh with the customer ahead of you, asking about their kids, genuinely warm. Your turn comes and the warmth clicks off like a light switch. Professional, efficient, 40 seconds and done. No have a nice day, nothing personal, just processed, like a return at customer service. The next person steps up and the smile comes right back on, like it was never about you specifically. Because it wasn't. At $180, the bank doesn't dislike you, the bank doesn't clock you at all. You exist, you are simply not observed. Level 3. $2,400. Something shifts, and it's not your personality, it's your direct deposit. Same job, same $1,850 landing every other Friday, 6 months running. That consistency is the only biography the bank has ever bothered to read. The maintenance fee vanishes on its own. Nobody removed it because you asked nicely. An algorithm somewhere clocked the deposit pattern and decided you'd graduated from cost center to acceptable risk. And just like that, years of quietly bleeding $12 a month simply stop. You check your statement 3 times because you assume it's a glitch. It's not a glitch. It's a promotion you didn't apply for. The pre-approved credit card offers start arriving in the mail. Real ones this time. Actual $2,000 limits. Still 22% interest, but real. The same institution that wouldn't approve you 8 months ago is now mailing you an envelope with your name embossed in silver like you're being knighted. You apply. 90 seconds later, approved. The same system that ghosted you at $180 just said yes at $2,400. You didn't change. The number did all the talking. You walk into the branch and the teller says good morning before you even reach the counter. Not the warmth she saves for the retirees with the boat loan. Not the cold efficiency from before either. Something exactly in between. Polite, functional, forgettable. Welcome to the middle-class treatment tier where most of America quietly lives its entire life. You apply for a $5,000 loan to fix the car properly this time. Approved in 48 hours at 11%. Not amazing, not predatory, just fine. Which at this point feels like winning the lottery. You finally understand the part nobody tells you at the beginning. The bank never cared who you are as a person. The bank cares what your account looks like on a spreadsheet. At $2,400, your spreadsheet finally looks like something worth selling things to. Congratulations. You're not invisible anymore. You're a lead. Level 4, $16,000. You log into the app one random Tuesday and notice your credit limit just changed. $4,000 became $9,500. You didn't request it. You didn't fill out a form. The bank simply decided, unprompted, that you deserved more rope, which is either flattering or slightly ominous depending on how many true crime podcasts you've listened to recently. The next morning, an actual human calls you. Not a robot reading a script, a person who says his name twice like he's hoping it'll stick, and offers you a direct line. His direct line. Like you're now important enough to skip the hold music forever. He wants to schedule 15 minutes to talk about your goals. You didn't know you had goals. Apparently, your balance decided you do. A $32 fee shows up out of nowhere. You email your new personal banker instead of calling the 1-800 number into the void. 3 hours later, reversed. No form, no script. Just a one-line reply that says essentially, handled. The exact fee that would have drained your account silently at $180 is now something you can simply email away, like sending a returned Amazon package back with one click. And here's the part that stings a little if you let it. The bank wasn't ever cruel to you when you had nothing. Cruelty would at least mean it noticed you enough to bother. It was just indifferent. And it turns out, indifference at scale looks exactly like cruelty from the outside. You weren't being punished before. You were being ignored. Somehow, that's worse. Level 5. $85,000. The word preferred shows up on your statements now, on the welcome screen when you log in the email signature of the man who now handles your account personally. You didn't earn the title through character. The number earned it for you, which is either extremely on brand for capitalism or the most honest relationship you've ever had. His name is David, and David knows your sister lives in Chicago because you mentioned it once, in passing, 9 months ago. He remembers. Not because David has a great memory, because the bank trains people like David to remember small details, the same way a good waiter remembers your usual order. It's not friendship, it's retention strategy wearing a friendly voice. You walk into a branch and someone with an actual nameplate stands up to greet you, guiding you past the rope line where everyone else waits their turn. The same rope line you used to stand in, back when you didn't know it was a line at all, because you were standing inside it. A pre-approval letter arrives for a $400,000 mortgage. Not because you asked. The bank decided what you could afford before you'd even picked out a house, which is either impressive foresight or mildly unsettling, depending on your relationship with surveillance capitalism. You're not invisible anymore. You're not just profitable either. You've officially crossed into worth the effort of pretending to care, which in banking is basically a love language. Level 6. $500,000. The bank stops being somewhere you go. It becomes something that comes to you, which sounds like a compliment until you realize it just means they've decided you're worth the gas money. David doesn't email anymore. David calls, and not to check in, to ask when you'd like to meet his colleague from wealth management, who then drives to your office, leather folder in hand, and spends 90 minutes asking about your goals, your timeline, your tax situation, your kid's college fund, and doesn't try to sell you a single thing the entire meeting. Because the selling already happened, you just didn't clock it. That's the twist. At this tier, nobody pitches you anymore. They just quietly become part of your life until leaving would feel like a breakup. You call about a frozen wire transfer. Somebody picks up on the second ring. No hold music, no script. Fixed in one call. The exact call that would have eaten your entire lunch break and half your dignity back at $180. You get invited to a private dinner. 8 guests, a guest speaker, a view of the skyline you didn't know existed from this angle. Nobody talks about money the entire night, which is somehow the most expensive silence you've ever sat through. Level 7. $5 million. Private banking sounds like wealth management wearing a nicer suit, but it isn't the same thing at all. Wealth management is a service you receive. Private banking is a relationship you're inside of. And relationships, as anyone who's ever been in one knows, don't follow rules, they negotiate them. You don't have a banker anymore. You have a private banker, managing fewer than 20 accounts total, and yours is one of them. He knows your kids' names. He remembers the foundation you mentioned wanting to start over coffee months ago, in passing, the way you'd mentioned wanting to start a podcast and never actually do it, except he remembered and he's already looked into it. The mortgage rate isn't published anywhere. It's negotiated, quietly, in a room with no logo on the door and a conference table made from a single slab of wood, because apparently at this tier, furniture also gets promoted. You walk into a branch you've never set foot in before and they already know your name. Not because you're famous, because you're positioned, flagged across every branch in the system before you ever ask for anything. The bank doesn't follow rules for you anymore. It bends them, quietly, the way institutions only bend for people who could afford to simply take their business elsewhere and barely notice the inconvenience. Level 8. $25 million. You don't have a banker. You have a relationship. And the gap between those two words is the entire distance between this level and every level below it. Losing your account wouldn't just cost the bank money, it would cost someone, somewhere, their entire career. 3 people inside that institution likely have jobs that quietly exist because of your balance. They don't know that. Neither do you. But the math is real, whether either of you clocks it or not. Nothing here is off a menu anymore. The deals are bespoke. Sentences written for exactly one client, negotiated over a phone call instead of an application form, structured around your timeline instead of the bank's. You don't apply for things at $25 million. Things apply for you, which is either the most American sentence ever spoken or the most damning one, depending on how you're feeling that day. The real shift isn't access, it's influence. The chief investment officer asks your opinion on emerging markets. The head of private banking flies out just to ask what your entire tier expects next. You're now quietly shaping the institution that once, years ago, charged you $34 for being $11 short on a burrito. Somewhere right now, someone is standing in a Target parking lot, staring at a screen with a minus sign on it, $11. A late Chipotle charge. The fee already posted, $34, for the crime of being short. They call. The hold music loops. A voice reads the same sentence it's read 1,000 times today. Unfortunately, that fee is non-refundable at this time. They don't know yet that nothing about this is broken. It's working exactly as designed. The same institution that will one day fly an executive across the country to ask their opinion on emerging markets is, right now, this very hour, charging them for not having enough. You are the same person at every single balance. Nothing about your character changed between -$11 and $25 million. The bank just decides who you are based on what's sitting next to your name, and it will never, ever tell you that to your face.